Hello and welcome to Wardust, a VR battlefield type game that's out on the HTC Vive. And in this video I'm going to go through a little bit of my initial thoughts on this game. Is it any good? Should you put your dollar down? And does it feel anything like battlefields of old? Let's boot and suit, lock and load, and let Uncle Bones tell you all about it. You may have noticed initially I haven't done that many VR games of recently, and that's because there's not many games that are really standing out. See what I did there? Stand out. Not many games that are really grabbing me. And when I saw this on Intitube, when you sniff around, 32 versus 32 battlefield type game in VR, I was very, very dubious. I really did enjoy Standout, which is the same developers and publishers of this game. And when it said 32 versus 32, I was like, yeah, that's going to be a laggy bag of shit. Well, I'll be pleased to tell you that having jumped in and played a few games of this, there's been very, if any at all, lag that I have actually experienced. Doesn't mean that it's all good news, but it certainly is a very pleasant surprise. And as you can see on screen, yes, the graphics... Well, let's talk graphics. Come on, lads. Let's be realistic now. It does look like a very simplified game, a battlefield of old, shall we say. If you've played Standout, then you're going to know that basically the same mechanics, the same way of putting things on your vest, taking them off your vest. The audio, I feel, needs a little work. It doesn't quite feel as punchy and beefy because the graphics are obviously of reduced quality in order to be able to get 32 players in here without lagging, or basically 64 players. Then obviously something has to give. So the visuals we will let off, because even though the graphics are very simplistic, to somebody who's never played virtual reality, the ability to be able to stand on the corner of a building or a tree or a compound or anything else really, and be able to look around, physically look around a corner with a weapon in your hand, is quite indescribable. This game really does give you a great immersion factor. Now, I do feel like the scaling is a little bit off in some of these structures. It's almost as if they've just blown them up. I know that doesn't really make any sense, but until you actually get in and experience this, you'll kind of know what I mean. Some things just feel a little bit off. Now, the quality of the actual characters running around and the weapons and everything else, I don't think are quite up to Onward's levels. And I've put a huge amount of time into Onward. And the thing that, for me, lets Onward down is the audio. I think the audio needs to be a lot better on some of the support weapons. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. As you can see on screen, visually, it looks really quite impressive in a simplistic way, but again, unless you're in the VR headset, you're not really going to understand what I'm talking about. Communication in-game, you can actually have a squad, and for all intents purposes, let's be realistic, this is a battlefield game in virtual reality, and for what it is, I'm actually really quite impressed. Yes, there are bugs, and yes, this is early access. And I hope that the developers don't sort of bail on it and leave it a little bit like Standout. Although Standout in virtual reality, when you come down to the last man, which is basically like PUBG, the adrenaline is probably higher than I've experienced in any other virtual reality game, including Onward. So that gives you a little bit of insight into the whole vibe. Now, that looks ridiculous. I do feel like there's something missing, and I know this is early access and it's very unfair to say that because there are not many 32 versus 32 war games, as it were, up to this quality, if there are any at all, with no lag, with the different classes and unlocks. It's basically Battlefield. What more can I say? I mean, I could talk about all the different aspects in this game. The one thing I guess that really does need some work is the land vehicles. They feel very, very floaty, and how they're going to be able to get around that in virtual reality, well, your guess is as good as mine. But there are moments in this game of pure joy as you're looking at on screen. I'm actually talking to these guys next to me, communicating that there are enemies down, further down there, as you can see in front of us. We've got sandbags down, there are helos flying all over the place. I think the future of virtual reality, this is just a glimpse. Think of this as being the ZX spectrum of online combat shooters, and where we will end up, or where we are actually now. This is probably a glimpse of that future. Once the Pimax headsets come out, once we start getting developers that can invest a little bit more in a AAA shooter, then I think once you've put the headset on, donned it on and tried a game like this, you're never really going to want to go back to a flat screen monitor. That's what virtual reality brings. So without waffling on for ages, I'm trying to make this quite a short video. Is this worth your dollar? Well, there are currently 2 maps, one that you're looking at now, and another second one that's just come out, which is more infantry based. And the majority of reviews on Steam seem to be very, very positive. So I'm going to give this a thumbs up. Yes, it is early access, it's buggy. It's not quite the Battlefield that you imagine it to be, but it's very, very close for virtual reality. So if you've got £10 to spare, I think you would probably really, really enjoy this, because there is nothing currently barring 6v6 on Onward and Standout, which is a duo. It's kind of a lonely experience. I know they're a team based on that, but there's nothing else really like this. And if the developers keep supporting this and pushing it and giving us more and more things, squad radios, squad commander radios possibly, mortars, 50 cals, emplacements, I think potentially the future could be very bright with this title. Let me know what you think about this, whether there's anything I've missed or anything you'd like to know, and I'll possibly do some more videos on this title. But so far, it's quite enjoyable. Get your wallet out, have a brew, sit down, get it loaded, get your boots on the ground and join me. Thanks for watching. This has been a quick review of this game. I've been Box of Demons. See you on the sunny side. Bye-bye.
How do you mark people? Is it just automatic?